Hello, my name is Aiden. For those of you who don't know, my highest viewed video is about a manga that tackles the importance of spreading kindness to others. When I made it, I didn't expect it to blow up in the way that it did, but people really enjoyed the video. To the people who enjoyed it, I could not thank you enough for that. However, as it's taken me half a year to milk it, I think that makes it clear how unplanned the sequel was. But as I am young, and therefore lacking in wisdom, these last several months have given me time to flesh out my thoughts on the subject of kindness. Instead of being an anime or manga analysis, treat this more as just a general discussion, and if people end up liking this format, I may consider using it more in the future. A question I frequently got in the comment section was asking why the message of the Hitman manga is so important, considering that it should be common sense to be kind to others. Unknowingly, I wound up answering this question in my next video about the subject of justice and what it truly means. In the video, I shared my experiences in what was, at the time, my current workplace. The job was mostly fine, with the exception of my boss, who would continually insult and be mean toward me and my coworkers. In retaliation, I'd make fun of him behind his back, not only to make things easier for me, but also for the coworkers who arguably had it worse than I did. Eventually, I ended up realizing that while my actions were understandable, that they weren't right, that they weren't true justice. That was when I began my job search. I'm working a new job now, and it's coming with a set of difficulties. The job search took several months, and it was a process that utterly annihilated my self-esteem. As I have an autism diagnosis, it makes socializing with certain kinds of people more difficult for me. And while I can thrive in environments that suit me, my current job isn't exactly one of those. One time during a break, I had a small talk conversation with a woman who was hired the same day as me. While I would have much rather have kept to myself, I was too shy to politely end the exchange. Not wanting the conversation to die, or have it force me to talk about my embarrassing hobbies, I decided to talk about my work history. I have no idea why I did what I was about to do. Perhaps it was anxiety, or it was me wanting to show off, but instead of explaining my first job for what it was, something that would require me to be vulnerable, I instead bragged about getting back to my boss, failing to explain why I did the things I did. She rightfully called me out for this, calling my past behavior bullying. While I was also bullied by that man, it of course doesn't justify what I did to him. Ever since, I've definitely felt like she's given me somewhat of a cold shoulder, and I can't really blame her since what I did was wrong. It was after that conversation that I watched a YouTube video that I'll link in the description. In the video, it's claimed that humans are more likely to do morally questionable things in moments of instability. That's why I brought up that conversation, because I was in a position where I felt exhausted from work and overstimulated from conversation. It put me in a position where it became harder for me to do the right thing. That's ultimately why I'm making this follow-up video, and it's for two reasons. The first is to show that I won't always follow what I preach, as I'm a deeply flawed person who still has so much to learn about what it actually takes to be a good person. The second is to show that I'm not alone in this. While I had a very blatant experience with this, it can often appear much more subtly, like it was in my last job. It's because of this that I think this message is so important to spread, as it begs the question of what actually makes someone a good person. I have a close friend who often mounds up on people's bad sides due to the mostly innocent, yet still frequent mistakes he makes. A lot of people like this I end up finding incredibly annoying, and that's where my first impressions with him lied. However, it was through repeated conversation that I gradually got to see him for the person he truly is. While his loneliness, abundance of free time, and lack of direction are the explanations for the mistakes he makes, they don't exactly justify anything. For as frustrating as it could get sometimes to see him mess the same thing up and come complaining to me about it yet again, I stayed patient because his desire for change was always evident. The culmination for all this came in over half a year ago, where he told me that he feels like an asshole, that despite wanting to change, the mistakes he's made will never prevent what people think of him. This conversation was an important moment for me because of how relatable it was. One thing I would question constantly was if I was a bad person due to the sheer quantity of bad decisions I've made in my life, mistakes that I can never take back. It's funny how when I think that about myself, I get so many doubts in my mind, but as soon as my friend parrots those same concerns, my gut instinct is to tell him that he's not an asshole, because a true asshole wouldn't worry about how their actions affect others. That's where we get back into the conversation of what truly makes someone a good person. While I don't have the answers for what makes someone a good person, I certainly know what makes a bad person, and it's how one reacts to their mistakes. A bad person will do something bad and keep repeating it, either out of negligence or malice. Meanwhile, someone in between either doesn't recognize when they made a mistake and generally tries to be a decent person otherwise, or they make constant mistakes with full awareness of what those mistakes are, the end goal being to learn from them. While I think the former of the in-between will stay there forever, the latter group is the one that has the potential to become truly good. I may not be able to call myself a good person yet, and I may not ever be able to see myself that way, but after so many years of living in doubt, thinking I was a bad person, I can finally say with confidence that I think I'm not. I may not be the kind and altruistic person I want to be, but the fact that I want to be that way is enough in itself. As long as I truly do learn from my mistakes, then it shouldn't matter how much time it takes for that to happen. So, is it hard to be kind? For as much as people would like to say it's easy, I disagree. Maybe those embarrassing stories that paint me in a bad light aren't what most people face, but I'm willing to bet that many of you can relate to having done bad things as well. Otherwise, redemption stories like A Silent Voice wouldn't be so compelling, and given how universally beloved that film is, it leads me to believe that I'm not alone when it comes to that. While the path of true kindness is a path that requires tons of effort, I think it's one that's worth striving for. To me, one of my most important lessons about kindness came when I was 17. My dad made me use my own money to buy Christmas presents for my grandparents. I did so mainly out of obligation, knowing that I was coming of age to start giving presents myself. That's why it surprised me so much when they opened their presents and were extremely happy. I only got them ornaments, and yet such a simple present that they already had countless of was enough to make them smile that much. That was the moment where I knew that I had to take gift giving more seriously. Just because gifts may not be my love language, that doesn't mean that it isn't something that others place great value toward. And since I like seeing my beloved family members smile, I knew that I need to keep on giving new gifts to all of them as the years go by. This is to say that a selfless act of kindness isn't only for the sake of others, but also for yourself. I've noticed that while it may take some sort of sacrifice on my end, my money being the example with Christmas presents, that I always end up extremely happy when I bring kindness to someone else. It's interesting to think about, but this is a theme that I don't find exclusive to just the Hitman manga. I think that the theme of kindness and self-sacrifice is one that's ingrained into every anime about parenthood, whether it be something like Clannad or Sojiro's route in Persona 5. While my experience talking about such series will be dampened by the fact that I don't have kids, these are anime which I find incredibly compelling for similar reasons to the Hitman manga, and I could definitely see myself covering them in the future. With that said, I know this was a lot shorter than what I typically make, but I just really wanted to clarify some of the points I made in the Hitman video, and I hope that you were still able to enjoy the video despite how loose the script felt. Even so, I did take it through a rewrite to focus the script a bit more, so I want to thank the people I showed it to before I end us off. I figure this video may be somewhat divisive given the inherent nature of discussing morality, so I'll be looking forward to seeing what you guys thought of what I had to say, as long as you're not a dick about it, of course. But before I sign off, I still need to thank my wonderful Phantom tier patrons Mystic Owl, Jesse, and Squizzy, and my Confidant tier patrons Regimania, Plasma, and Eternum. If you want to add your names to the list, as well as get plenty of other benefits such as a private Discord server, over 300 scrapped video ideas, 500 unlisted videos, early access to my videos, previews of upcoming videos, and my entire Google Drive, you can find it on Patreon. I also have a third tier that no one's bought yet, so perhaps you could be the first name there. While donations are the best way to keep the channel going, views, likes, and comments help a ton as well. No matter which of these people you happen to be, I thank you for watching the video, and I'll see you all next time.